Perfect.
Cool. So with that in mind, yeah, thank you again, Ashley, for joining. Very excited to have you here. And I'll hand the floor over to you.
Sweet. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. All right, guys. I'm excited about this. So, like Rob said, we are talking all things partnerships today. So, before I even get into any of this, like I want to make something clear, I think. And it's that this is nothing I'm going over right now is new. Like none of this concept is as old as time. And I think often when we see like really anybody with like anybody doing any like lead gen stuff, anybody doing any marketing, right? We tend to see it like shown presented as like this hot new thing and do this because this is the only way now. Like none of that is the case here. I am just like Rob and I were just talking about. My goal is to put another tool in your tool belt. And what I'm seeing right now, and I've been in the industry for 5 or 6 years now. So what I'm seeing from my perspective is that this is a massively underutilized strategy. So all I want to do is be able to run through this for you guys, talk about conceptually like why we see some of the strategies that we're using right now not really hitting quite the way that they used to, but also like what we can be doing in addition to that. So all of that said, like keep that in mind as we go through. I'm not by any means saying don't use social media. Like you can see the title here is online business growth without relying on social media. And my goal is for everybody to leave here this weekend, next week, just being able to have a little bit more leeway, like have another option, have something else to be going for, because social media is absolutely still valuable. Like I think that we're living in a world where it's never going to go away. So being able to use that as kind of our, I don't know, like virtual business card almost is kind of what I refer to it as, because it's important for us to have that kind of like that like authoritative presence, right? So somebody's going to be looking for like, do you know what you're doing? Do you have the social proof, right? Like what's the vibe? And like being able to showcase that visually is really important, but it can't be what we're like, we don't want to put all of our eggs in that basket to be utilizing just social media to be working on lead gen. So all of that said, one of my least favorite things, I just said this to Rob too, like one of my least favorite feelings is being talked at. That's why I skipped a lot of my college lectures. So I want you guys to like, I'm gonna ask questions. I want you guys to answer in the chat. I'm new to Demio, so I expected to be able to see you guys, but I mean this is really cool. So anyway, so I can't see any of your faces or anything, obviously. So I usually do the like raise your hand kind of stuff. So whenever I say that, just drop in the chat. But I want to make sure this is conversational. I want to make sure that everything that I'm saying is landing, that it's all making sense, right? But also that you're able to, if I say something that you're like, dude, what are you talking about? That you're able to ask questions about it. So like Rob said, I'm going to try to kind of answer a few of these things as I go. But ultimately at the end, I will get to everything that I maybe couldn't get to as we went through. So, all right, let's go. Rob, I don't know if I can change slides. Oh, nope, disregard. We're good. Okay. So just a little bit of who I am in case you are unfamiliar. My name's Ashley. I know a couple of my friends are in here, so I might be a little redundant to some, but I am the founder. I own a fitness and nutrition coaching company called Hustle and Muscle. Started in 2020. My degrees in nutrition and wellness. I was a personal trainer, like trained in person prior to that. And then it was like little boutique gym, loved that. Obviously COVID hit, and a lot of gyms of that nature went under, they couldn't stay afloat. So it was kind of just my time to start to, I always knew that I wanted to do something on my own, like wanted to do something for myself. So this was kind of the way for me to do that. So I had been doing a little bit on the side for myself prior to that, but this is kind of like that entryway, as I think it was for a lot of us. I imagine a lot of you in here are kind of in the same boat of like, yeah, COVID was like kind of a blessing and a curse in that sense. Gave us a lot of opportunity that we may not have otherwise had. So anyway, started around 2020. Started like all of us do, just kind of like head down, grinding it out. And I got to a place where I was starting to like the like back end more than the actual like coaching delivery. So I started to take on this like It's evolved a lot over the last couple of years, but this kind of like strategic growth consultant type role, where I was like way more interested in kind of like the marketing, the systems, the logistics, and I found myself in like even some of the mentorships I was in, things like that. I was kind of dubbed like to take charge on that front and start to teach a little bit more of that. I became the go-to kind of in my circles to be asked questions, that kind of thing. So I kind of grew into this. Like this was just an evolution over time. So now I would consider myself more of that strategic growth consultant type role. And so I spend a lot of my time helping other business owners kind of get out there using partnerships. And we'll talk about what that looks like, what that means. But that's most of what we're going to get into. So another point here. I laugh about this because I think that it comes across the wrong way sometimes. But any of you that know me that are in here, this will sound familiar. I am a big non-believer in rules, and not in like a like teenage boy I'm trying to like rebel against the system type way. I mean, definitely have some of those bones in my body, but also like I more so mean we tend to and I think this stems from the school system, right? We've all been taught this like one way to do things. So I want to remind all of you here that like when we're going through this, this is just my experience. This is just what I have done. This is what clients of mine have done. This is what we've seen success with. There are no rules ultimately. Nobody can tell you what to do. That's the nature of entrepreneurship, right? Like there are the opportunities out there are infinite, and how we are delivering and what that looks like and how we are finding new people and how we're getting in front of them is like there are no rules. There's nothing that nobody can tell us how to do this. So I don't know if any of you, and feel free to drop in the chat, but like I don't know if any of you feel like liberated by that, but that's one of my all-time, like I just tend to anchor back into that as much as I can. Like I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna do what I want. So that's kind of how I structure all of this. Erica says I love that. Awesome. Yeah, and it's just like I don't know. I think it can be really challenging, especially in this world, right? In the online fitness world, in and of itself. There a lot of the structure looks similar, right? It's a lot of like a lot of the big dogs teach a lot of the same ways, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that it's good for us every once in a while to take a step back and kind of question it and say like, is this actually really serving me at a high level? Because if it's not, I can do whatever I want. I can do something else. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. All right, let's go. I don't actually know how I changed slides. Okay, there we go. Oh, these don't look as cute, not on Google Slides. All right, anyway, something else you guys will learn about me is design, not my forte. I just told you I do the back end stuff. I like the logistics. I like the strategy. This is what my slides look like. It's emojis and white writing on a black background. That's it. So don't expect anything fancy over here. So okay. I want to know from you guys, and normally this is where I do like the raise your hand, but drop it in the chat. When you look at these emojis, as ugly as they are on this screen, how many of you feel like this when it comes to social media? Like when it comes to knowing that you have to like pump out another reel or write another caption or there okay, we got hands. Yep. There we go. Yeah, and like I send another cold DM. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. I'm not even gonna go down that today. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and read at the same time. Constant debate daily. Yep, to drag sometimes, dude. Yeah. So and again, this is like if you are somebody who likes social media, power to you. I am all for it. I love that for you. Again, this is just a tool, but I want everybody here that feels this way to know that it's not the only way. Like there are better ways. There are more like higher leverage, more just intentional. There are other avenues. Trying to get people engaged. It's exhausting. Deanna says and I think like just the world that we're living in, right? Like the algorithm looks a lot different than it used to, and for some people that's great, right? But I think for a lot of us that I use it though, it helps me consult. Yep, my message. Okay, hard to commute with big ad spend too. Yep, that was my face today. All three. I'm with you, Jackie. You feel that? Yeah. I sorry, I'm trying to read all these, but I also want to make sure that I'm not going over my time. So I say all this to say, like I think social media isn't what it once was, and while it can still be valuable in some ways, and like I said, kind of positioning ourselves as this like the virtual business card type situation is really helpful. However, yeah, when it comes to leads, there are so many other ways that we can be doing that. So, all right. We're going to go into our next set of emojis. I don't know how these look so bad on this. But anyway, you guys get the point here. So this is the goal, is for us to feel like this, right? Like we want this to be how we're feeling about our business as a whole. And I don't know about you guys, but I likely am never going to feel this way about social media. So business owners tend to find me when they've tried it all, when they've been through all of the courses, they've hired all of the experts, they've hopped on and off all of the trends. You guys know what I'm talking about, like the trending audios. What was the most recent one? Oh, it was the like I asked ChatGPT to be my drunk best friend. Like no, nobody got leads from that. I know that. I didn't even ask anybody, and I just know for a fact that like no clients came from that trend. I don't know. And that's fine. And honestly, if I'm wrong, I hope I am. Correct me. But it's like these types of trends, right? Where we get all caught up in this and then we spend our resources, our time, our energy, our effort, sometimes our money when it comes to ad spend on these all of these like inputs that really don't actually yield any outcome. Like there's no ROI on them. So we do exactly not that. Um the emojis. Dude, I know. I'm sorry they look like this. So anyway, what I'm saying is business owners find me when they're ready to stop relying on social media. So I just for reference, and before we get into kind of like the nitty gritty here, and there's a lot that I'm going to dive into, but I want to give you guys kind of like a snapshot of the power of this strategy, of these strategies, really. When I say partnership, I break it up into 5 categories, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I want you to know that like these, I mean, again, like just one tool in the tool belt, but these have allowed clients of mine to get in front of email lists with 20,000 on them, to get in front of a room of 400 plus of their ideal client, to get in front of, get on social media accounts that have 20,000 plus of not their audience, right? So it's all about like, how do we leverage other people's audiences? So, Dan says, I hate social media. I would love to generate leads without it. You're in the right place, my friend. You just stick with me. That's what we're here for. So the concepts that we use, and bear with me for a second while I say this, but the concepts that we use are that of Fortune 500 companies. So usually when I say this or anything of this nature, everyone's like, hey, Ashley, problem. And it's that I don't have the revenue or the resources of a Fortune 500 company. And I say, yes, I know, me either. So what does that mean, right? Like when I say we're using the same concepts that a Fortune 500 company uses, what does that actually mean? And so what it comes down to is we're using the same principles. And when I say principles, I mean like true of all things in all places at all times, right? So the best way to describe principles is think about and big in analogies. It's really helpful for me to like, if I can like see something physically, I can understand it better. So laws of nature are a really good way to describe this, right? Like I said, bear with me. I like full circle, I promise. So when we think about, okay, we want to scale down our like what are the strategies, what are the concepts that these Fortune 500 companies are using that have got them to where they are now? Okay, how do we apply them to our size? Well, we think about like, again, laws of nature. Gravity is a good one, right? I think that's like one of the, we're all familiar. We all know what gravity is, like the what goes up must come down kind of vibe. So again, like doesn't matter how much you weigh, doesn't matter like where you are, what you're doing, you're still going to be sucked into the center of the earth, right? So you can be as little as like toddler size, you can be the size of a house. Like it's always going to work the same. It works a little bit differently it looks a little bit different depending on size, you know? So that's essentially like, think about that concept. And that's what we're doing with the strategies that these Fortune 500 companies use. We're scaling them down to our size. So does that make sense to you guys? Does that like, I know that it's kind of like a big concept, but that's the way that we approach all of these things, right? Because obviously all of these big companies, and it's not absolutely everything that they do, but for the most part, like it's just, it just works, right? We just have to make sure that we're scaling it down to the size of our operation, whether that is us as solopreneurs, as small business owners, whatever the case is, we can scale it down. It just might look a little bit different. So that's the point. That's what we're building on here. That's like this kind of the idea that we're starting to use as foundation. Heidi says yes, makes sense. Awesome, great. So, all right, let's talk some nitty gritty. So I just said to you guys when I first started, it was about 2020, and I did what every smart-ish person does, and I recruited the help of somebody who had done this before, right? I started the business and like I said, I trained in person. I felt like pretty good about that, but I was working in a gym and it looked a lot different. So starting this online business venture, I was like, I should probably figure this out. Like I should probably talk to somebody who's done this, right? So that I did. And I started working with this company, and this is not a knock on them. This is just generally what was being taught at the time. I pretty much went in and was like, hey, how do I do this thing? And they were like, social media. And I said, okay, fine. Like I didn't know any better at the time. So I was like, all right, cool. Sounds good. Like definitely can do. So I start posting, like I not really a lot of direction, but like use social media. I said, got it. And I had used it personally prior to that, but so I started like posting some workouts, put like the meal pics, just the stuff that we do. Um, and I mean, I like it. I did like the launch post. It like trickled in a couple of leads. It was like friends of friends, right? Like extended family, like asking questions, kind of interested. But ultimately, like it was not a funnel. Like it was not like a source, like a constant source of leads. So I went back and went to like one of the meetings one day. I was like, hey, what about social media? And I don't know what they've told y'all. Like, I don't know what you guys have heard, but I heard this as volume, value. They were like, do volume and value, and you'll be good. Just use volume and value. And like, I'm no rocket scientist, but I was like, okay, volume more, do more of this. Awesome. Value, provide something that somebody can use, right? Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Fine. So started posting a little bit more, started getting like a little bit more strategic about what I was posting. But then I got to this place where I was like, I don't want to like the value thing was challenging for me because it was before I understood the concept of give the what, not the how. And so I was trying to understand like how do I give enough value that like somebody is interested but like not enough that I'm like negating the need for myself as a service provider, right? Like if I'm giving too much away, like I'm just canceling my purpose out essentially. So trying to find that balance, right? Like whatever. So I kept doing that. Still not particularly perfect. So I went back and was like, hey, same thing, whatever. And I mean, I might butcher this a little bit, but like you guys know that the quote, the Einstein quote, that's like the definition of insanity is like doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, whatever. Yeah, that's what I felt like I was doing. So I was like, I'm gonna go in and do more volume and more value to the people that aren't buying. Like my Instagram isn't growing. Like I'm not. There's really nothing here that's whatever. I said fine. So same thing, kept this like cycle kept continuing. And the next time I went to them, they were like, well, like look at some of these big creators. Like we're starting to see like more aesthetic stuff. Jackie said, I feel your pain. Yeah. So we're starting to see these like more aesthetic videos pop up, and it was like, okay, these like higher production videos. So that was essentially like the next step was like, okay, if this isn't working, like let's make it more polished. Like let's turn you into a creator essentially. So I, not knowing any better at the time, I was living in Austin at the time, hired a sick videographer. Kid's a legend, still great at what he does. I would recruit him for any project I ever do for the rest of my life. I started spending way too much on that. Alex said, did all of these, got nothing, posted every day, drove myself crazy. Yeah, dude, like, yes, it's that constant pouring out and not seeing any return. And that it like, yeah, we get into this like spiral, right? So I started posting these videos, whatever, like paying this kid an obscene amount of money for the amount that I was making at the time. And wouldn't you know it, I post these beautiful videos, like super well produced. Who likes them? My mom and like my current clients. And like, yes, everybody was like, these look pretty. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how, yeah, it doesn't matter how pretty it is. Okay. I love my mom, but I don't like you liking my pictures is not helpful, and that's fine. So the idea of like, okay, I guess I have to like continue to grow my like page, right? I'm sure all of you have heard the same thing. Like just try to amass more followers. Family and current clients is so real. Like, dude, I love the support. I'm not knocking any of that. I love when anybody supports in any way, but like that's not the point. I'm not here for you guys. Like that's not what I'm doing here. So mine's family for some of us. Amen. So okay, so we started like hearing, right, that like, oh, grow your audience, grow your audience, grow your audience. I'm sure you guys have heard that. And so okay, I was like, fine. I don't even like at that point, I don't even know if it was reels yet or whatever. There were tactics floating around, right? That was like, this is how you grow your audience. I was like, cool, I'll start doing that. Sure enough, it was right around this time I ended up getting lunch with a friend of mine who had, it was like 50,000 or so on Instagram at the time. Trainer, online trainer, business owner. She trained in person too, actually. But anyway, so we're sitting down chatting about whatever. Like, usually we're book swapping, so like chatting about other things. And I was like, oh, like how's business? How are you doing? I will never forget this. This girl looks at me and goes, dude, I'm struggling. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how you were like, you have exactly the account that we're all after, right? Like, this is exactly what we all want. And like, from following her for a long time, was not for like one of the most consistent creators I had seen. Not for lack of calls to action, because like she's selling plenty, right? I know I've got friends like that too. Yeah, like, and it does, like the number doesn't match. So that was when it occurred to me, like there's got to be something else. Like it was around this time too. Another friend of mine, a couple 100,000 on Instagram, ended up like just waking up to a like account suspension one day, just like not like unable to, like restricted or whatever they call it. No point of contact, no, like luckily it ended up being restored, it was fine over time. But like that, it's just crazy to think that we're pouring so much time, energy, and effort into an asset that actually isn't really ours and isn't even producing the result that we either were promised or had assumed that it would produce, right? Yep, Greg says followers don't equal paying clients, which is absolutely true. So, and again, maybe for some people they do, and I think that there are other ways on, I know that there are other ways on social media to monetize. It doesn't necessarily need to be just selling. But I think that like the nature of like small business ownership, that's probably what we're doing, right? We're not looking to be creators. If you are, God bless, that's fantastic. But anyway, yeah, the idea that like there's no really real like pre-qualification, right? It ends up being just this whole like, we're just kind of watching you to watch. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's challenging to sell from that perspective. So when I started to understand that, I was like, there's got to be a better way, right? So all of that said, I started thinking, and I just kind of mentioned this, Fortune 500 companies, I started thinking more critically about excuse me, about like, okay, what are these big dogs doing, right? Clearly they know something, clearly they are doing something that we aren't doing or that we don't know about. So like something just wasn't clicking to me, so I started doing some digging, started like to try to understand this a little bit better, right? And and follows do equal legitimacy, like it or not, and I don't. Yeah, and that's like I'm saying about the idea of like our Instagram being kind of our like Instagram or any social media being our like virtual business card kind of thing. Like, yeah, it definitely, there's a level of legitimacy. I also know of so many people that have bought followers by now that I'm like, I see the number and I'm like, whatever. Like, I do think that it helps for sure, but I think that that skepticism is not rare anymore. So it's something to think about too, which is just helpful. So Fortune 500 companies started thinking more about just like as a whole, conceptually, like what are they doing? And so as I started to like actually research this a little bit more, I got to the point where I was like, they all have one thing in common. Oh, it's the little thumbs up. They all have one thing in common, and it's that they don't rely on social media for any of their sales. Like they don't rely on their number of followers for their revenue. So thinking about like big name companies like Apple, Amazon, Tesla, like Costco, Microsoft, sorry guys, I'm trying to keep up it. Level of trust. Yeah. A lot of time they're bots. Yeah. Um, Costco, Microsoft, the Home Depot is another. I know I still to this day I cannot believe that Home Depot is on the Fortune 500 list. I don't know why we as a society need that many tools, but that's not the point here. But anyway, thinking about these like massive companies, clearly there's something that like they're not like coming into the office every like they're not going into their little Silicon Valley like cubicles every morning like strategizing what they're going to post on social media to make sales, right? And I was like trying to think of good examples of this, and I made myself laugh with thinking about like, because I was like, Uber does a really good job, right? And like, they don't like social media, Uber doesn't do social media, like, but like, how do they do so well then? And I just was imagining like, what if every time an Uber driver wanted to get a ride, like they like open Instagram and go to Lyft's page and they're like DMing Lyft's followers, like bro, like that's, and I know that that concept is some of what had been taught over, and I hope to God it's not still being taught in this like industry, which is just like the idea that like this is legitimate business is silly. Like if we said any of this to somebody that ran a business 50 years ago, they would be like, that is not, that's a joke, like that is crazy. So I started trying to think about like, okay, if like what did they do before social media? Like clearly there is that it worked, like business, what this is not new, business is not new, right? So okay, I'm gonna try to catch up with these. I try to use it for education purposes. I do a lot of collaborations, programs with a colleague that's got 14K or similar in my niche. Awesome. And this like exactly, and that's kind of that partnership route that this is part of what I want to dive into. It's still being taught. Some offered it to me last week. Okay. I don't mean to offend. I'm like, I really am not trying to be rude, I swear. So anyway, I made myself laugh about the example and then whatever. So, and like, hopefully this is kind of clicking, right? Hopefully this kind of makes sense to you guys. So I started trying to figure out like, okay, what do they use, right? Like, what is it that makes the big difference? And it is leverage. And so leverage by definition is just to use something to its maximum advantage, right? I think we're all pretty like we hear the word leverage and we understand, we know what we're talking about. So yeah, this idea that like we're able to use assets in whatever way makes the most sense for the outcome that we're looking for. So that like I said to you, I think it's helpful for me to have like a physical representation of this, so like kind of using analogies, and I'm going to spare you on the like, I'm not going into the leverage definition like high school physics type stuff, but thinking about like uh the have you guys any of you changed a flat tire, like the car jack that you use to like jack up the car to change a flat? That's one of the prime examples of leverage, right? Just did this. We're on a road trip, Denver to Boston. 10 minutes into this ride, flat tire, car's packed full of stuff. So like hatchback, open the thing, open the trunk, whatever. I'm like getting ready to change the tire on the side of the road. Horrible, whatever. I pull the jack out of this thing. It's like, I shit you not, like probably this big. I was like, it's like flimsy. Like, this is gonna hold the car while I'm effectively under it. Like, what do you mean? That's insane. And so naturally, I called my dad and I was like, "Am I doing this right?" And so he said yes. And I was like, "Okay, I trust. Whatever." So I jacked this thing up, and I just like that was part of when it occurred to me. Like there is so much power and strength as long as we're using the right tools for the right purpose, right? And so I think that like the car jack example is a really good one. A bottle opener is another good one, right? Think about like any of you beer drinkers or Coke drinkers, right? Like when we try to like open a bottle cap, like you like physically can't pull a bottle cap off a bottle. That's not a twist off. But we like take a bottle opener, right? And as long as it's at the right angle, it literally like slides on barely a flick of the wrist and the thing goes flying. And so I think those are good examples of leverage to show that like it's not about the strength, it's not about the power. Those things come as a product of having the right strategy. So we can leverage any assets, right? Assets can be our audience, they can be our network, they can be our influence, they can be our intellectual property. The coolest part is that it doesn't have to be our assets. We can leverage assets that aren't ours, which is cool. Heidi said, I grew to 70K. I realized that if I want to grow a real business, it's going to take doing things in real life with real people. Yep. Yeah. And I mean, and I think that that can be in person, or also we can do that online in a lot of ways. It just looks a lot different, right? It looks different than like just like soliciting followers, which is a helpful differentiator. So, okay, if any of you are taking notes, which would recommend, if you are not, I think you should write this down anyway. The fastest and most effective way to grow your business is to use someone else's assets. I'll repeat that. The fastest and most effective way to grow your business is to use someone else's assets. That is the power of partnerships. So now I think a lot of people hear that and they're like, well, that's cheating. No, that's just working smarter, not harder, right? When we're able to go into a situation that when somebody has an asset, whether it be a network, an audience, what have you, that we want to leverage, as long as it's an equal exchange of value, like we just have to go in knowing what would be valuable to them, right? So as long as we're able to provide them with whatever makes sense, right? Whatever makes this kind of an equal trade, if you will, depending on what that setup looks like. Yeah, it only makes sense to do that. So is this making sense to you guys so far? I'm gonna get into some more details here, but let's see. Heidi said, I read this in a book this morning, had a call with someone to do this exact thing before this call. Wow, thank you for confirming. Good. Yeah, no, it's like, this is, it sounds so simple too when I'm talking about it, but that's, I think the simple pieces are the powerful pieces, which is really cool. So, like I said, that is, yes, getting the right mindset is key. Yeah. So this is the premise of partnerships, right? Is the idea that we can tap into somebody else's audience. We can leverage somebody else's assets, right? So I can give you guys a couple of real world examples because, excuse me, I think that it is so helpful to see this going on, like out there, out in the wild. If any of you ever had McDonald's Diet Coke, I grew up with all of my friends being like, the Diet Coke from McDonald's is like it's crispy. It is the one. There's nothing compare. And I know that I'm probably not speaking to the right audience for this concept because we're probably not Diet Coke drinkers. But this is something that I have heard my whole life. Like the Diet Coke from McDonald's is superior, and I always was like, okay, whatever. Like never that. I hate Coke. It's meant nothing to me. So I started trying to just kind of like this recently. I started kind of like trying to understand more of these concepts, whatever. So my wife always makes us go out of our way for McDonald's Diet Coke. Dude, yes, I actually did this talk and used this example recently, like, I don't know, probably last month, or a similar talk. And I used this McDonald's example, and I literally had a guy be like, my girlfriend is crazy about McDonald's Diet Coke, and I've never known why. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, because this is just a fun fact, and I think it's helpful to know, just as a life thing. If any of you have ever worked in restaurants, you know that, and if you haven't, I'm about to probably ruin something for you, but anytime you get soda, like soda is just syrup mixed with soda water. It's like, that's why the like soda guns in this like soda fountain exists, because that's like the lines mix them and that's where they come out. So when you work in a restaurant, all of these syrups get delivered in like these big plastic bladders, and they're just encased in these like hard cardboard. It's like the Camelback bladders kind of thing. So they're such a pain. They're so annoying to change. But anyway, even like the freshest ones, even the ones that just get delivered, because they come in plastic, because the syrup comes in plastic, some of that flavor like seeps out into the plastic, so it's just not as potent. So when you have Diet Coke at any other restaurant, it's like it's the same recipe. It's just like it's delivered differently. The syrup for Diet Coke, and I imagine other products, but specifically the syrup for Diet Coke at McDonald's gets delivered in 7-foot tall steel tanks. Yeah, that's expensive. Like the reason they don't do that for other restaurants is because it's not just free to do that. Like you can imagine how much labor you have to pay for. You can imagine how many more just like costs you incur for that, delivery time, cleaning the stuff. Like there's so much more to that. So I was like, why is that? Like, why does that happen? McDonald's and Coca-Cola since the 50s have an exclusivity partnership. I don't know if any of you have ever noticed this, but Coca-Cola is the only beverage product at McDonald's. Like they can't sell any other drinks. They actually don't even have their own line of drinks because working with Coca-Cola has been so lucrative over the years. So I heard this and was like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense now. Like, it's a silly thing, but it makes a little bit of sense. And then I started digging into numbers and was like, okay, so why? In 2023, Coca-Cola's revenue was $64 billion. Maybe it was 46. It might have been 46. Either way, point stands. It was definitely 46. $46 billion. Of that, 4.6 billion, 10%, 4.6 billion of that came from McDonald's alone. That's insane. Zero marketing. There was no, the thumbs up, driving me nuts. There was no work on their part. All of that is just all straight cash for them, aside from product, right? There's no, they're just there. Like, people just go to McDonald's anyway, and they need a drink, so they're gonna get Coke. Like, they're gonna get a Coke product. Do any of you feel like that's insane? Like, that Coca-Cola made $4.6 billion just in 2023 because of one partnership. That's nuts. So this is kind of the concept that I'm like, yes, is that like massive scale? Absolutely. But like, can we figure out how to do that relative to our own size? Also, absolutely. Another example, a CrossFit nutrition coach that I worked with a few months ago. We started talking about kind of how can we expand the audience a little bit, right? What are we going to do next? And she avid CrossFitter, like big in the community, like that's her thing. She listened to a lot of CrossFit podcasts, and it's like, there are a lot of forums, like that's a big, people care a lot about that. If any of you are CrossFitters, you know what I'm talking about, or know a CrossFitter. But anyway, so there was a podcast she was listening to, and they were looking for sponsors. And so she was like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's like a 90-second to 2-minute slot in the beginning. You can it's like a shout out. They talk a little bit and like whatever they do. I don't know, a couple podcasts a week, and then like a special episode on the weekends or whatever. But so that special episode is what they were looking for sponsors for. And it streams to like 15,000 people. Okay. 15,000 people a week. So she heard that they were looking for sponsors, was like, whatever, I'll do that. Like, buddy of a buddy. I'm happy, like building the company. I'm happy for a little bit of like publicity. That's great. So we started working on like strategy. How are we going to make this work? So we literally just put up her logo and her QR code to her application on screen when they do the like sponsor announcements. 35 inbound applications in 24, less than 48 hours. I think it was like 36 hours. 35 inbound applications. That's a lot. And think about, like, even, I actually don't remember what her close rate on this particular like set was. But think, even if it was 50%, even if it was less than 50%, right? At 15 people, her average ticket price is like just under $2,000. That's 15 people at $2,000. That's a $30,000 sponsorship. That's a lot. She paid $500 to get in front of that audience. Imagine if you found an ATM that you could deposit $500 into and you could withdraw 30,000. How many of you would take that home with you? I don't care. I don't care what the law says. That's coming with me. I'm going to figure out how to produce as many $500 bills as I can, and that is going to happen on repeat forever. So this is what, like, that I think showcases on a much smaller scale, we absolutely can do that same thing. Wild. Yes, exactly. Amazing. Gymshark. Are any of you familiar with Gymshark? I imagine probably all of you are. So when they first started, I don't know how many people know this story. This is the last example I'm going to give, and then we'll talk. I'll get into some definitions, and then we'll do some action items so that we're all set up for next week. So, okay, yeah, on Gymshark. Okay, so the brand, it was bootstrapped 2012. It was two co-founders. I don't remember if it was like from their dorm room or like it was a very humble beginning, right? So these guys got started, and rather than trying to build an Instagram audience, I don't even think that was really a thing at the time, right? 2012. They, or like starting to run ads or whatever, they just looked for people that already had audiences. And so this was a little bit, YouTube started in what, 07 or so. So this was like early days of YouTube still. So there were like trainers that had YouTube channels that were just like teaching workouts kind of thing. So it's well before the era of influencers. So these guys that started building or started creating this like gym wear were like, you know what? We're just gonna send some product. We're just gonna have them like quality control it. Like, we're gonna have them test it, see if they like it, like get some feedback on it, right? they send the stuff. Both of these, I don't remember who they were. I should actually look this up. I think that would be helpful. Anyway, so these two trainers, they both had like decent sized YouTubes at the time. I imagine it was probably like a few thousand followers or like subscribers, whatever. So these Gymshark guys sent out these just like trial pieces of not equipment, but just like clothing, right? To see if they liked it. And so they did, and they started sending a little bit more, and they're like, cool, if you enjoy it, like you're feel free to wear it in your videos, whatever. So they started wearing it in their videos. You can imagine that the type of people that watch any sort of fitness, anything on YouTube, are the type of people also that are in the market for that type of clothing. So that became a no brainer. That was huge. And then within, I don't know, maybe less than a year, they had exclusivity partnerships and they were only wearing Gymshark in all of their YouTube videos. And I think it's crazy to see something like that. And obviously now Gymshark as a brand is like a multi-million-dollar company, and they have the wherewithal for ads, and there are so many other avenues. But the idea of that like bootstrap beginning is insane and so cool. Like that type of partnership is so high leverage. Like they ended up 20, I might butcher these numbers a little bit, but 20 they started in 2012, 2013, I think they did like $500,000 in sales, which is for year one, for your first full year in business, like I don't think any of us would be mad at $500,000 in sales. And then they scaled up over 10 years to like, it was like 660 something million or something. Clearly they did something right from the get-go, and I think that that's a really good just like piece to understand, which is cool. So okay, how do you guys feel about that? Are you guys with me? How are we feeling about those examples? How like is all of this making sense? Are we kind of like, were those examples helpful for you to kind of see like grand scheme of things to understand a little bit more? Let's see. Would it be a different strategy if you offer services like courses or subscriptions versus products? That's a good question, Heidi. So yes, but it's different no matter what. So I'm going to go into, I think what I'm about to go into should be helpful for you. So the way that I do this is when I start working with a client, we talk about like what are you trying to sell, right? Like what is it that we're pushing, and also what assets do you have available to you? So like where can we find leverage, and then where's that crossover? And we'll talk about like what that looks like in a minute, and I can dive deeper into this question. Cool. Sierra says, I'm sure you'll be going over this maybe in part 2, but what are some strategies you and those you mentor use to initiate partnerships? Great question. Where do you look and how do you find businesses to partner with? Yes. So I'm going to touch on that today. I'm giving everybody homework. Are you guys excited? No, it should only take 10 minutes, but it's helpful. I'm going to go into a little bit of that, Sierra, and then we're going to dive deeper into it next week too. Yay, homework. I didn't want to call it that, and I didn't even want to, but it will be helpful. I promise you. I'm not going to give you anything to do that's not going to matter. Okay, let me, let's do this. Okay. So these are the 5 buckets, if you will, of partnerships. So they can look, so this is like to answer that initial question, Heidi. Yeah, it was Heidi, right? Yeah. Okay. These are kind of the foundations that I use, right? So everything kind of falls into one of these categories. So partnerships can be referrals, endorsements, sponsorships, special appearances, or joint ventures. So I was going to iPad write these, but Rob and I talked about this. The logistics of me trying to screen share from an iPad were too much. So I'm going to read off definitions to you guys for all of these, and then I'll have them typed up on the next slide. I was going to write them on my iPad so you could like follow with me. But I'll type them up on the slides for next week so you'll be able to see them too, but I want to go over them now because I think it's helpful. So referrals, I think we're all pretty familiar with. It's somebody who sends a potential client our way, right? And this is like, when I'm talking partnerships, right, this is kind of this like umbrella term. So all of these fall under that. So referrals, this is like literally like word of mouth with clients, but there's a way that we do it inside my world that's set up a little bit more strategically, where we're like literally asking clients for referral posts. We have a referral program built out, and it just looks a little bit more tailored. So again, these all depend on what the business looks like, what we have as far as assets built, how many clients have we had, like what is their experience, all of that applies to all of these pretty much. So that said, endorsement is the second one. And this is essentially, it's similar to referrals, but it's a person or a brand publicly vouching for us. So we can look at like really any big name brands that have any sort of like celebrity endorsement, right? It's like, oh, I use this thing, I do this thing. It's somebody that like has the platform that's like, oh, this thing should be known. It doesn't have to be a crazy platform, like literally any sort of platform. So like I said, endorsement is person or brand publicly vouching for us. Excuse me. Sponsorships are, this is like a pay to play, right? Sponsorships are paying in either money, time, value to be featured by another business in front of their audience. A good example of this is a newsletter shout out. You got, if any of you read email newsletters, this is something I'm subscribed to, like a handful of email newsletters. Like I read Daily Drop for travel. I read what is it, Morning Brew for news in the morning, right? Like, so I have a handful of these that I read regularly. And a lot of, I mean, a lot of people in our space and in like adjacent spaces have massive email lists. We go over some ideas for referrals. Sometimes some of them seem so desperate. Yeah. So yeah, let me get through this and then remind me of that, Jenny, and I will hit on that too. I want to make sure that I get through all of these. So I can crank these out. Special appearances is showing up as an expert in front of someone else's audience, which is literally what I'm doing right here to you guys. Like I am here on Everfit's platform talking to you guys about this thing, right? And this is like, if we can find an audience that could benefit from what we have to either to teach or to provide or to sell, this is exactly how we do it, right? We're going in to like give our time and to give our energy to somebody to kind of like offer, you just go in giving, offer a gift of sorts, right? That's how that special appearance starts. That could be a podcast, a webinar, any sort of event. The structure of that looks different, again, depending on what kind of business you run, all of that jazz. Joint ventures are teaming up with another business to create something valuable for both audiences. So that could be co-hosting a joint container, right? Maybe it's, you guys have some sort of, maybe it's a personal trainer and some like, I don't know, mindset coach kind of thing, right? And that's just a very simple, very foundational thought there, but like that's kind of the concept, right? So we can understand what that looks like. Okay, ideas for referrals. So when you say sometimes some of them seem so desperate, do you mean like the way that we ask or the way that they are presented to presented publicly? And then I'm going to pull up both. Okay, fair. Yeah, so the way that we ask is really just like hey, I ask very conversationally, like, hey, this is like, it's always when I have some sort of either new launch or new something coming out. And it generally is just when I've made a post about it. And I'm just asking, like, generally we have goodwill with all of our clients. Hopefully we have, like we've bought some goodwill with them because we care about them and we like have good rapport. So we're just asking them to share it, essentially, like add a couple words about their experience with us and maybe like toss a poll on there. Is anybody interested, kind of thing. We're keeping it very low key, I guess is the best way to put that. And like really, I think it's the intent behind it above all else. Like I think that the ask itself is just very simple, but it's like the way that we ask means a lot. So I think something really simple, just kind of conversational like that is really helpful. And then the way that they're posting it, if they're just sharing something that we have already put out, it's really easy on that front. So hopefully that answers your question. Are you guys good with partnership definitions? We feeling good about, do you want me to repeat any of those? Like I said, I'm going to type them all out. So you'll see them all next week on one of the first couple of screens. But if there's any questions on that stuff, let me know. Okay. Homework time. All right. Here are your action items. All good. Rock on. Okay. I want you guys to make some lists. Number 1, where did your last 5 to 10 leads come from? This is, you don't have to dig too deep into this, but like, think about just like quick write down, like, did they come from referrals? Did they come from, was it something on social media? If it was social media, try to get a little specific, right? Referrals, who was it? Social media, like what kind of post was it? I think those are all really helpful. 2, who in your network already trusts you? And I think when we think about this, we often think about just clients initially. And this can be clients, this can be friends and family, this can be colleagues, peers, like anybody in your world, who in your world already trusts you and sees you as the authority, right? Like knows that you are the expert in your field. I want you to make a list of those. In this one, number 3, this is the one that matters. This is icing on the cake. This is to answer the question. Let's see. this is the one Sierra asked. I want you guys to make a list of other businesses that already work with your ideal client. I'm going to say that again. What other businesses already work with your ideal client? This is the framework that I use for this to like dig into this in my brain is the 3 F's. Who do they follow? What do they fund? Where are they found? Who do they follow? What do they fund? Where are they found? And that really all it boils down to is like, okay, where are they spending their attention? Where are they spending their time? And where are they spending their money? Attention, time, money, wherever. So like think about your current clients. Think about the ones that you like to work with. Where are they spending their attention? Where are they spending their time? Where are they spending their money? And that's how we start to figure out where are these partnerships? Where are these potentials? Like, because I think when we're able to dig into that in every facet of their lives, there's insane capacity for this. So I want you guys to like literally either write these out or type them out. I actually, you know what I want to do? Rob, tell me if I can't do this. I want to anybody that does this, I want you to send me a screenshot. Either send me like write it down, send me a screenshot. Everybody that enters their homework in, I want I want everybody to do their homework and I want to reward you for it. I want to like I'll put you into a raffle for like a strategy session. I do like kind of one-off strategy sessions with clients. I'll put you in for a strategy session if you submit your homework before Thursday, and I'll pull a raffle on next Thursday's call. Sorry, repeat the question. Had to find a pen. Okay, so it stems from. Got you, George. Stems from what other businesses already work with your ideal client. So that's on the slides. And then where should homework be submitted? Send me a screenshot on Instagram, Ashley_goes. Or you can send me an email or whatever. Yeah, Everfit tagged me and stuff, so you'll find it there. Andrea's on it. She's like, "Where? I'm done with my homework. I'm sending it right now." Okay, so what was it? Okay, what other businesses already work with your ideal client? And then the 3 F's. This is for you, George. The 3 F's that I use are who do they follow? What do they fund? Where are they found? Follow, fund, found. And that is that all that really means is that's just really helpful for me to use that like cadence and use the 3 F's for me to like figure out where are they spending their attention, time, and money is really it. Like where are they physically, what are they spending on, and like what are they engrossed in, because that matters the most. So yes, submit your homework. You will be entered to win a strategy session with me. I will pull a name. Email to send homework to ashleygoes19@gmail.com, or so you can either email it to me or you can just send it as a DM in whatever. I will make sure all of you are it's so simple. All of these questions are so simple, but when we actually sit down to think about this, when we give ourselves the space and the time to think about these things, there are like the potential's limitless. And I know I keep saying that, and it's just there's so much out there. Like there are so many other businesses that already serve the type of person that we love to work with. So it really only makes sense to leverage their audience, right? They already have an email list, they already have an Instagram, maybe they have weekly meetings. I have a client that there's a mastermind that he's in that he is like well connected in, and started connecting with these guys in the master. He's a fitness coach, connected with these guys in the mastermind who a bunch of them have their own groups or run like pretty large businesses. And he ended up in front of a group of a bunch of guys worth 5 million plus. And he's like, let me tell you, there's not a single, what do you call that? Financial objection in that room. It's like, but he works with these high powered execs. So he got in rooms of that exact avatar. And so it's figuring out how do we bust into these rooms that are already full of our people. What was the email? Sorry, what was the email again? You said it so fast. It's my name, ASH. I'm going to drop it in the chat, I suppose. Oh, we'll include Ashley's email and Instagram in the email we send out. Thank you, Rob. Okay. So cool. I think that is it for today. We're at about an hour. So I'm happy to answer any other questions you guys have. Rob, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Yeah, any other questions you guys have, fire them at me. But like I said, we're going to go into a lot of I wanted to lay the foundation this week, and we're going to go into a lot of the how. the kind of like prepping for reach outs, right? Or like qualifying these prospects or like potentials, right? And then prepping for reach outs. We'll go into that stuff next week and more of like kind of the logistics around it. Awesome. Cool. Yes, Andrew, I think so. Also, you're welcome, guys. Thanks for being here. This is awesome. I love to talk about this stuff. I think that it's not talked about enough.